Good morning again, everyone. If anyone doesn't know me, my name is Michelle Thana. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Washington Tourism Alliance. And we're really excited to have you all here today. We're really excited to share our new brand, our new campaign, our phase 1 new website. So we just have a lot of exciting things, and we're really excited to be here with all of you. And thank you all for all of the work that you've done to help shape all of this work that we're ready to share out with you. And with that, it looks like we've got pretty good critical mass of folks. So I am going to hand it over to David Blanford, our Executive Director, just to go ahead and kick us off and give a little bit of a background on the project, and then we will walk you through all of the work that we have to share with you this morning.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. So nice to see you all here with us. And I echo Michelle's excitement about this work and what we're about to roll out. And we will walk through this with you this morning. I think it's appropriate because we did this work with you. Our industry partners, you have been with us every step of the way. It's been a very long process and a very iterative process, and not surprising, the launch of this will be iterative too, and in some ways a little unexpected. We're launching this in phases, which I think makes sense for some reasons we'll explain here coming up. I will also say that while many of you have seen parts of this or all of it already, and other members of the industry and elected officials and others have seen it too, that this is still a relative secret. We have plans to officially roll this out the first week of January. So we're asking that you help us keep this as secret as it can be, keep it on the down low as much as possible until the first week of January. So let's go through the assignment here, the goals of this project. As you know, it's been many years, more than a decade since the creation of the last state destination brand. And the goal for this now that we are working our way through COVID-19, working our way into recovery and building programs would be to create a broad brand platform for the destination that WTA can build its marketing, communications, and trade programs upon. It also is essential, I think, as a foundation for beginning to recapture some destination market share that was lost during that dark 10-year period. It's time to get competitive again, and this tool is going to help us more than anything else. Go to that next slide, Michelle. And of course, the thrust of this is really consumer marketing, as we would expect, and our advertising campaigns for the destination, our website, social media, of course, would be driven by this. But this also will extend to travel trade, domestic and international. We fully expect that this platform will translate across all of our various markets, and then would also be used by you as our industry partners. Go to that next slide. As mentioned, the process was a long one, intentionally so, because of the aforementioned dark chapter, that 10-year period where we were not really very active or proactive in the market. We knew that we needed to take some time, and we needed to as well check in with the industry and bring you all into this. It was worth a deep dive, I think. It was the right juncture to do it. And we began it more than a year ago with a national RFP process. It was extensive. We had many in-state firms, out-of-state firms. Ultimately, our selection committee chose a firm called Adventure, based in Minneapolis, but now with an office here in Washington State. We chose them because they have a really important background around destination marketing, but also at the confluence of travel and outdoor recreation, which we think fit really well with Washington State. We also liked their boutique sort of gonzo approach to things. They caught our attention in the interview by saying that the key to the creation of a next generation state brand for us would not be so much creation, but an uncovering of what truly is authentic, what exists here already and needs to be brought up to the surface, expanded upon, celebrated, and then brought to the world. And in the spirit of that, we chose them as our creative partners here and began this long process of first competitive analysis and looking at other destinations. Of course, our close-in state competitors, but we looked broader than that. We looked at countries, we looked at other destinations that had some of the unique shared challenges with us, but I think also opportunities. There was a lot of SWOT analysis in here. Many of you were a part of our broad stakeholder process. We engaged every region of the state. Most of you, I would say, on this meeting, as I scanned the list of participants, were a part of those town hall meetings and gave really critical feedback to us about what you think is essential and should be a part of a state destination brand. We also challenged you a little bit and talked about some of the inherent challenges for Washington. We think, and we thought then and still do think now, that it is a harder state brand for a variety of reasons. And I know that our team here will talk more about that. From our broader stakeholder process, we went to more focused conversations with focus groups and key industry leaders. Our core team really got to work in co-creation with our agency and our core work team here on the WTA side, and then finally began to assemble the brand architecture that really is the key. There is a sort of an unspoken part here. The brand architecture, I recall really putting finishing touches on that in the summertime, and so as we look at the summer to December time period, there's a big swath there, and I think it's noteworthy to add that the finishing touches of this brand really relied on some elected officials, from Department of Commerce to Governor's Office to a legislative committee charged with approving any kind of destination brand. And some rigors and some dates around that, I think, protracted the process a little bit, but we found to be really valuable because it gave us the opportunity to go before them, explain where we're at as a state, re-emphasize the deep impact during COVID-19 and the importance of building market share to pull ourselves out of that deep trench. I think in that process, which was laborious, was really worthwhile and has paid off, because I think that we have some great buy-in from the public sector as well as the private sector. And we will go to that next slide. Thank you. And that brings me up to a place here where now, having given the boring black and white slides, I think we can begin to introduce some color here. And who better to do that than our creative guidepost throughout this whole process, Jay Peterson, Vice President of Strategy for Adventure. So Jay, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to encapsulate 6 to 9 months of discovery into 7 concepts. Some of you have seen this before. Actually, you should see yourself in it because many of you were a participant in this. I believe our final count was in the hundreds of voices that came into the development of this, but it's important to understand, number one, every tourism destination wants to present themselves as accessible and diverse, but it's really not your unique value proposition. It is a component of the Washington experience, and it will be highlighted, but it is not our center. Where we started to push is to the ideas of being undiscovered and to be remote. Those are not weaknesses. In fact, in our current state, where the pandemic has pushed a lot of travel and destination tourism, these actually become coveted opportunities. Number 4, the surprise and awe of the emotional benefits, we can use those to break stereotypes. You are much more than just Seattle and rain, and our campaign and strategies seek to break those, but do it in a way that connects deeply and emotionally. And that really centers on values. I have a slide coming up that shows the competitive landscape and where we saw opportunity, but that opportunity was born of the group on this call, and born of the group of hundreds of others that participated in this. The importance of values as a grounding for you, and especially environmental stewardship, is going to come through very strongly. Also, targeting beyond demographics, we seek mindsets. We want like mindsets, and centered in the values that we hold dear, while remaining open-minded and inclusive, which is key. And we have built that into every step of our process, from our strategic development to the actual execution of the work, from the talent that you're going to see in the video, and even the directors behind the camera. We're all assembled to give us the most diverse perspective possible. And we think this sums up the process really well. What matters is the quality of life. We need to share our values with others, and we want others to care about the quality in everything they experience. This is really about a shared state of being for us, for those that visit us, and a shared appreciation for all that Washington has to offer. So this is the map that I had referenced, where we're placing competitors on a spectrum. And this is based on their strategies. It is based on their communications, and the way that we can, kind of organize the world. And while there's some wonderful communications out there, a lot of folks are talking about the same things, or talking about it in a way that is void of emotion. And where we saw the opportunity on the next slide is to center in values. Not only can we do that authentically, but we can also leverage the intimacy that provides, and also doing it in a way that allows us to localize, so we can look at strategies to disperse visitors throughout the state, and center on the values and the experiences that they're going to have both with nature and with your wonderful culture. The brand name was a big topic from the very beginning. And we tried to look at that in a way that solved a number of problems. The first problem is we have to push away from Washington, D.C., and make sure that literally wayfinding is a consideration in our process. Secondly is establishing pride, that we think about Washington and Washingtonians as a state of mind, really building off the generations that has established your culture, and bringing them together then. That it's not just East and West, it's not just Seattle and the Palouse, that it's one state that really brings an inclusive sense to the world. And lastly, that we have to be reflective of our strategy, that we have to be authentic. Like Dave said, we don't create brands, we uncover the truth within your brand, and we shine a light on it. So where did that take us? We put it on a strategic spectrum, from the concept of being kind of a me and an inwardly facing consideration that's very descriptive, to slightly more inspirational. Washington State starts to give it some grandeur, but really where we wanted to be able to push it is toward the we mindset. That when we think about the aspirations of Washingtonians and travelers, and the philosophy and the state of mind, the state of Washington and what that all represents, that we can both be a place and a way of being. And therefore, we recommended and ultimately moved toward the idea of the brand name being the state of Washington. And I believe Michelle is going to pick up from here.
I am. Thank you so much, Jay. And so you can kind of see all of the thought and all of kind of just like soaking in what the state means to all of us and also to all of our visitors. And that kind of led us to just creating the set of guiding principles around our brand that really helps us kind of shine that light on what is so great about the state of Washington. So as we've gone through this process, we've really looked at setting up a brand that is accepting, but not overly sort of rolling out the red carpet LA style or Vegas style welcoming. A brand that's quietly confident and not overtly loud. A brand that's thought-provoking and traveler first and not just an expected and cookie cutter tourism brand. And really leading with our values first versus only giving an activity-based show and tell. And that really leads into how do we express this brand? So we have this seal, the state of Washington. We have intentionally bright and vibrant colors that we think sort of show some of the optimism in the state of Washington. These colors are inspired by nature, but we've intentionally increased the vibrancy just to kind of show some of that unexpected surprise and delight that you can find in the state. We really focused on modern, caught in the moment photos that show people living in the experiences and kind of capturing that mental state of being in the state of Washington. Again, just really looking at how do some of these elements come together to tell stories throughout the state, whether you're in urban centers or throughout the rural and outdoor areas of the state. And really looking at how can we tell diverse stories within this brand. And with that, I am going to pause for a second. You'll hear more about our campaign later, but we think that the campaign does a really great job of bringing this brand to life. And so we wanted to just take a minute to show you one of the videos that we think does a really great job of telling that story. So I'm going to stop my screen share for just a second here and then reshare with the video. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Go for yes.
Chris, this is amazing now. I mean, the only thing is like, when are we coming back?
I know.
Because I'm free. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer in her 40s. And the first thing she did was we got in a motorhome, just the two of us, and we drove up the coast. So when I was diagnosed at 43, one of the first things I remember is nature is healing. You act like you're 56 years old. As a single mother, I definitely think it's important as a way to connect. So what do we see in other islands? Every year I ask Chris, where are we going in the spring? And I've heard about Orcas Island, I've heard about Friday Harbor, and have never come. Okay, there you go. Hiking in the outdoors is a thing that Chris and I do together. It is our thing.
Oftentimes when I'm stressed out or upset or something, like, getting outside, going birding, going kayaking, going hiking, it just gives me a place of home, a place of comfort.
Oh, probably.
Being able to share this place with my mom, it was just a really beautiful experience.
Okay, but then you said the community has really, it seems like, embraced us. You walk down the street and people are smiling, and people are happy. Okay, right. That's my thing. I like connecting with people. That's what I need in my life.
People here, very, very friendly.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a really great experience.
All right. I knew it. It's so good to say yes to something that you're not used to. And I'm at a time where I'm saying yes. I've just turned into a different person.
There it is.
There it is, yeah. I was thinking, oh, we're not gonna see it well. We're not gonna see it well. So when we first saw it, it was one of the few times I was quiet in my life. Like, this is overwhelming.
Oh, yes. See, that's what nature does to me, Like,
Yeah, I mean, I keep saying amazing because that's just what it's been. So to be able to experience it with my son and to feel so comfortable. This will be something that we'll talk about forever.
So we're very excited to be going back out after a decade with this brand and this campaign. And we just feel like it does such a good job of encapsulating everything that we want travelers to take away from the state of Washington. So there will be much more sharing throughout this presentation, but we just think that that video does such a great job of encapsulating everything that we're talking about with this brand. All right, so now a little bit more black and white, but just breaking down some of our brand elements. Of course, we have the state of Washington seal. This is our primary logo and mark that we'll use whenever possible. But then we've also thought about use cases where we will need to have a horizontal logo or a small social icon or favicon. Our new organizational name, so Washington Tourism Alliance, was created by and for the industry, and that will always be an important part of who we are. But as we talked about really creating a consistent and cohesive brand, we wanted to look at an organization name that aligned with our consumer brand, provided that same destination clarity of who we are the state of Washington, and also clarity of purpose that we are the official destination marketing organization, and that people, whether they're in the public or in the legislature, can easily understand who we are and what we do. And so after much discussion and debate and careful consideration, we landed on State of Washington Tourism. We feel like it really reinforces the consistency of saying State of Washington, and also provides that clarity of who we are and lets us kind of own that space and that name, and just aligns really well with the consumer brand. So we feel very good about our new doing business as organizational name, and that there will be really strong consistency across everything we're doing, both on the industry side and on the consumer marketing side. A little bit more detail just about sort of where we would use each of these similar and related names. The state of Washington is whenever we're talking about the destination, when we're out of market, in our advertising campaigns, on the cover of our travel magazine, at the top of our website, in our consumer newsletter, and at booths at events like IPW or media marketplaces, as well as on the front of our business card. State of Washington Tourism is really about the organization when we're in state and we need to distinguish from the state government for any local campaigns we might do. And in places like the footer of the website, the travel magazine masthead, our industry-facing newsletter, local events, and on the back of our business card. Again, a little bit more details of the brand, just for some of the marketing folks on the calls. Our fonts, we have a few different ones. We have Behringer and our Behringer Age, which we feel like does a really good job of giving us a range of emotions that we can communicate, as well as this National Park font. We think that National Park really connects well with our outdoor experiences and just kind of evokes some of that nice nostalgia that people have of visiting all the natural wonders that we have this great abundance of throughout the state of Washington. The color palette, you've already seen these, but again, just really colors that are inspired by nature that we can use in conjunction with their more natural forms, and then amping up that vibrancy and that sense of optimism within this color palette. We also have a very exciting new destination website, stateofwatourism.com. The website is in phase 1, but we really focused on creating a more modern, visually appealing and inspirational website that's going to connect to that modern traveler experience and connect to modern traveler needs. There will be a lot more folded into the website in phase 2, including folding in all of our industry content that's currently housed at watourismalliance.com, creating a page for media, creating a page for travel industry, and creating more robust destination content. But we're very excited with how well this new website aligns with the new brand. And with that, I am going to share one more video, and then I will hand it back to Jay and the Adventure team to talk a little bit more about the campaign. So 1 second, I will reshare my screen again.
Michelle, just so you know, your little thumbnails of participants shows up as a black bar on our screen. So if you minimize that, it won't cover up the video or the slide.
Thank you.
Yep.
Crossing through the mountains and seeing that long open landscape.
Ooh, look at that rapid.
It's big, it's wild, it's unknown.
You know, one of the things we value while we're traveling is it allows us to relate to each other differently and bring us closer.
As a family, you like bring these little humans into the world, and you only have so much time with them. You just got to use it well.
All right, and with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Jay to talk a little bit about how we went from these core elements of the brand to really exploring that consumer-facing campaign and that first messaging foray back out into the larger world outside the state of Washington.
Excellent. I still have a black bar on my screen, so if you could make that disappear, that'd be great. So we just saw two forms of video, a long form and a shorter form broadcast version. Now we're getting into some of the elements that'll appear either in digital or in print. That's great, Michelle's gone. And so what this is intended to represent in a singular concept is the convergence of values and nature and culture. We're really focusing on the idea of the majestic beauty as a backdrop that helps us, in this case, understand our place in the world. So the headline reads, "Time and space remind us we're all just travelers here." Hashtag true to nature. So when we're doing this, we're trying to pull you into the macro sense of why we're here, but also having some subtleties. The way that this particular element is designed on the right, where we're bringing in these really micro considerations of not only the landscape, but subtle things like explore responsibly, all underscoring the values that we hold so dear and want to bring to the world. Dave's going to share a little bit too about his perspective, not just on execution, but on the broader brand context.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, you as stakeholders in the process may recall the conversation around, I think, a particularly difficult challenge in this branding exercise, which is that Washington has it all. We have such amazing, diverse scenic beauty, culture, cities, but rural. And how do you encapsulate all of that? Kind of a classic challenge for any destination, I suppose, but it's really amplified here in Washington because we have such diversity. So we wrestled with that during stakeholder, but then also in the co-creation process. It came up again and again with our brand steering committee and our core brand team. All the players really wrestled with it. And I think as we really began to lean into this, and with the lens of COVID and the changing travel patterns now and in the future, the psychographics of travel, we began to realize that the sense of movement here in Washington is really core, that because we have such great access and so many reasons to travel, indeed, Washingtonians do that. At 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, they're leaving work early, they're in their cars and they're headed out somewhere in the state. We also know from travel research that travelers, when they get here, don't just stay in one place. They want to take a float plane from Seattle to the San Juan Islands. They want to see temperate rainforests, but also go to Washington wine country. We have amazing scenic byways here in this state, 3 national parks. And when you put that all together, there is a real sense of movement that is part of the attraction. The synergy here with, I think, that the concept of travel itself is really interesting, because we will be marketing a destination, a place where we want out-of-state travelers to come to. But we also will be marketing this new style of travel, responsible travel, cultural sensitivity, real-time travel advisory is all part of the new destination marketing that we all, as destination marketers, will have to lean into and be a part of. So why not celebrate the place, the state of Washington, but let's also celebrate how we travel. I think it's really core to this brand. Back to you, Jay.
Excellent. The good thing about this process being a little bit extended, it allowed us to get also in front of consumers. And it's important to do so to make sure that our strategies are coming through. I'm just going to read a few verbatims from the study that we did both regionally and nationally. One comment was, Washington provides contemplation, but also provides adventures. Another, it makes me feel really good, healthy, and happy. Another, I'm eager to go there and see what they have to offer. It's more than just Seattle. So as we think about the messages that we want to convey, and when consumers are playing back a lot of those same concepts, we know that we're on to something. The next execution takes a different approach from what we're hoping people take away. This one is about open-mindedness and spontaneity and freedom that exists so deeply within your culture. With an itinerary didn't fit into our itinerary, hashtag true to nature. And I love the juxtaposition of these two images too. That Palouse shot gets me every time. The next ad, we also tested. Some of the responses that we got back for this inspired. It makes me remember how beautiful the world is and how special it can be. It makes me want to get out and enjoy because life is short. And what we hope to do with a lot of these lines is that there's a meaning beyond the obvious. That sleepwalking through life is not an option here for obvious reasons, has a relationship to what we're looking at, but it's also a much deeper concept. It's about being curious, it's about exploring, and in some cases, culturally, it's about being fearless, being open to experiences that perhaps make you nervous. So this is intended to be both literal and figurative in nature. The last image here is just a little bit more context around true to nature. We wanted to make sure that true to nature could fit both in urban and rural situations, that it could be a concept that was bigger than just its literal sense. And similarly, we put this in front of consumers. A few of the responses are, it makes me feel like I need to be a good steward of the land. It's inspired and optimistic. It puts me at peace. And lastly, and I love this one because this was core to our strategy overall, it makes me feel connected to something bigger. And as we do this, we realize that we need to add depth to the work that we do. So as we start to think about other channels, and in this case, something that would be in social, we want to be able to tell the story behind the values and behind the experience. So we're going to be adding depth to this, where it's not just a beautiful shot that BC or Portland could do. We really want to bring forth something that is unique to your culture and to the environment that helps shape it. We have another execution here. This is going to be another 30-second spot in the Cascades. And we have, for all of these, we have the long form versions and the shorter forms. And the shorter forms even get shorter. We have 30s, 15s, and 6s that will test and optimize in various channels. Let's take a look at a group adventuring in the Cascades.
Sorry, 1 second, technical difficulty.
That's all right. While Michelle's pulling that up, a special shout out to the production teams that had to get to all these locations, hiking in with very heavy backpacks over the course of 14 days, from Rainier to the Cascades to the San Juans and Spokane. It was a wonderful experience for everybody involved, but man, was it a lot of work.
Okay, I think I've got it now. Thanks everyone for your patience with that.
The land is such a great way of connecting us.
Why we're here.
And I just remember thinking, this is such a special moment, and I'm extremely thankful to be here with these people. I love sharing the places that I hold dear to my heart with my friends.
All right, and then with that, I am just going to close with sharing a little bit more detail about this first campaign that will launch on the 4th of January. So with our first campaign, our goal, as with everything we do, is to increase visitation and economic impact of travel to Washington. And specifically with this campaign, we're really looking at driving both awareness of the state of Washington as a destination and then moving people through that travel decision-making funnel to consideration and then ultimately to making that booking decision and that purchase and entering the state of Washington. The campaign will be running in the first 2 quarters of the year, starting right after the first of the year on January 4th and then running through the end of April. Like Jay mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a really specific target mindset that we've called the Pathfinder, and I'll talk a little bit more about the details of that audience on the next couple of slides. And then in terms of where we're running this campaign, we're running in markets throughout the Western United States, and will also be on broadcast TV as well as connected TV partners like Hulu and Sling for people that aren't using traditional television or cable, the cord cutters, as well as throughout digital platforms and on social media. So then just to dig in a little bit more on who our audience is, we've named our audience the Pathfinder, and this is really based on market research, but our audience, the Pathfinder, is seeking experiences that are as unique and independently spirited as they are. They reject the expected because they know in their heart and their minds that off the beaten path is where real adventures are found. Travel is about the journey as much as it is about the destination. They believe the more you learn, the less you know, and the less you know, the greater desire you have to explore with the intention to understand. That desire for lifelong understanding provides our Pathfinders with exceptional emotional strength, fortitude, and a sound moral compass. It really aligns well with our value forward approach to our brand. They embody a constant state of emotional logic, one that becomes embedded as part of their travel experiences. The Pathfinder is built for positive character growth over the course of their life. They seek that growth both from themselves as well as the people and places they encounter and choose to visit along the way. So then just a little bit more about sort of what that means as we're looking at targeting. These bullet points on the bottom are based on indexes. So what they mean is not that we will only be in front of people that are 35 and above, but just that our audience index is higher than the average population for people that are in that age range. Again, looking at educated employed folks with household incomes of total above 75,000, married couples, targeting even gender splits, but really focusing on this mindset of people who are positive and good-hearted and open-minded and active, that care about ethics in the environments, that enjoy both urban, rural, outdoor activities, and care more about experiences. And of course, we want people who enjoy traveling. So then where we're going with this campaign, we did look at doing a little bit of our campaign within the state of Washington, both to help move people throughout the state, but also just to kind of instill this sense of pride and excitement that there is something to share about the state and get people excited to bring in their friends and family. Our next tier markets is our highest opportunity markets. I will say that this has updated a little bit to include Vancouver, BC with the evolving border situation, but looking at Oregon as well as select markets in California. Our California markets were selected really based on where we could get the most of our audience and also maximize our budget. And then looking at some markets throughout the West, Arizona, Colorado, Montana, and Idaho. And then just looking at a little bit more of our creative, we have our videos, which we feel really strongly about, but we'll also have a variety of digital and social executions. And these are really going to help us tell stories throughout the entire state. So we have some great range and variety in our video, and there will be future video campaigns, but the rest of our creative really helps us round out that statewide story and cover some additional locations and destinations. You'll see the same sense of emotional messaging throughout the creative banners and social media posts and stories as you do in the videos. We think that our social stories are very fun, and again, just give us an opportunity to share some different locations and different inspiration for our travelers. We'll be following up with a variety of assets for partners. I also will share a reminder as an email follow-up and at the end of this call that we have been shooting new photo and video throughout the past year around the state, and that those assets are available to all of our destination partners. Before that though, I just want to share one final video. 1 second.
In the last 13 years after having kids, we get so busy in our day-to-day lives, our careers, our jobs.
But yeah, this trip, all we're doing is, just going and enjoying ourselves.
Reconnecting on that love, the romance, the affection for each other. Life is short. You don't really have to plan so much.
We made it.
Sometimes you have to just go.
All right. And with that, we just, again, really want to thank everyone for all of your participation throughout this branding process. We're so excited to be going back out into the wider world with these state of Washington stories, and we're excited for you to join us. But we would love to answer any questions or feedback or anything that you have to ask of us.
Michelle, we have a couple of questions in the chat there.
Yeah, so for Michael Novakovich first, the long form videos will be on our website and YouTube, and some of our social and digital executions will be able to drive to those longer form videos, as well as using those shorter cut downs on social and in digital media. And then for Martha, how can Washington state cities and towns participate and be featured in social stories. So we will be putting together a partner toolkit that I will share as a follow-up to this call as well, with some suggested social messaging as well as videos and images. We would love for everybody to use the hashtag True to Nature as you're sharing your own destination stories. And that's really going to help us pick up content that we share throughout our channels and throughout the campaign.
Michelle, should we talk a little bit further about the actual launch of this? And again, given that this is kind of a secret, but not so much a secret, where we go with this and how we announce to the world.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dave. So like I mentioned, the campaign will be live on January 4th and everything will be public at that point. Up until then, we're kind of doing a little bit of a soft open where we have our website up. We would love for you to start looking at the website. We will be officially redirecting experiencewa.com to the new website URL before that campaign launch. Next week during the holidays, we have a little bit of time just to troubleshoot any last minute issues that come up. But that's when we'll be going out. We'll have a press release that announces our new name and our new consumer brand that goes out on the same day as the campaign launch. So really moving quickly towards that January 4th timeframe.
I might just expand on that just a little bit with our name, doing business as DBA. And as you might imagine, when using the state's official name as our destination name, there were some inherent issues, challenges, and workarounds with brokering kind of a license to use that, which we did, and we're in good alignment with the state on that. We still are the Washington Tourism Alliance, and the Washington Tourism Alliance is the industry. That's how we were formed. That's what we fought for in 10 years of advocacy, and we remain that. So we are a 501c6 and really in lockstep with the industry and advocating every step of the way. We just felt that we really needed to have a very strong consumer-facing destination name. And as Michelle said earlier, I think that this one aligns really well with the destination name and puts us in a good position to build back that market share.
Jen, great question in the chat. I think if we can hold off until January 4th to start using the hashtag, but once we hit January 4th, which like I said, is coming fast and furious, we would love for you all to start using it freely and as much as you would like to. Great, and Marsha, I see you had the same question, so same answer there. Any other questions? Anything else that we can share? Like I said, we'll be following up with an email recap with a recording of this webinar with a link to our assets and our partner toolkits. And I also just want to remind everybody about that video and image library, because there's a lot of great content from around the state, including content that we haven't shared here today that's really relevant to a lot of your regions.
Michelle, we might
Marsha, go ahead, Dave, sorry.
Okay, I was just going to issue some very specific thank yous, and we've already thanked all of you here as our industry partners. We really mean that. You were with us every step of the way, but also our full WTA board and probably half of our board that served on our brand steering committee for many months, and very specifically a working group made up of Mike Moe, Diana Thibodeau, Jen Tate, Andy Day, and Michelle came on later and really took the reins in this final stretch and really led us. Thanks so much. That was a ton of work, really worthwhile, and I just wanted to say thanks to everyone.
Great. And I know we're having some sidebars in the chat, and thank you, Mike, for putting in the link to our library. Just a note, because I know a couple folks have asked me about this recently. If you haven't used Barberstock before, you'll just need to register. It's a quick process. You'll just sign up with your email and create a password for yourself. And then you can bookmark that page and you'll be able to log in with that same email and password anytime you want to access those photos or videos. And thank you everybody for your feedback. We really appreciate it, and we would not be here without all of you. All right. If there's no other questions, we will give everybody a few minutes back in their day, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me or the rest of the team at any time with questions. Like I said, lots more to come, but we're very excited with where we are and excited to partner with all of you even more to continue sharing Washington stories.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, really great work, Michelle and Adventure, everybody. This is so wonderful to see. I like literally have goosebumps and teary-eyed. This is really outstanding work, everybody.
And a big thank you to Andy. Andy, before I even started and throughout this process as chair of our marketing committee, has really helped drive this forward and is always looking out for how are we telling that statewide story? How are we making sure that we take care of rural destinations? So really, I know Dave thanked everyone, but big appreciation to Andy today. All right.
This made my day.
That's fabulous. Thank you guys. It's really, really state of the art. Perfect. It's great.
Yeah. So this is something everybody can pick up this ball and run with it. This is going to be a change maker.
Oregon and BC better look out is all I can say.
Thanks, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Hope you have a great season.
Bye, everybody.